And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek. And now we are on the TNG episode number 9, it's just called Final Mission. Welcome, Sean from Trek on the Tube. How are you today?
I'm very good. I love how you get all sensual with the welcome back.
I so, so I was in radio. I was in radio for when I was 18 years old.
There's a
I
background to
start
this.
it's totally back there is. I worked at a classical radio station, and then one time so after midnight they did a like a jazz program.
Mm.
So it was called Jazz After Midnight. And one time there was an emergency, and the host who did an impression of him. His voice is like, it was epic. The host's name was China Valles, and the show was called China's Gate, like the gate into, I guess, jazz music. But China couldn't go on for whatever reason. Then they couldn't find his like substitute, or he wasn't available. No, for some reason, no one was like. They went down the line of succession, and it finally came to me, the lowly production intern,
Mm.
and they asked, "Hey, you don't really have to do much. Just announce the name of the piece. It's at 5 in the morning. Someone else will be here to relieve you. Just keep the music and the commercials going, and everything will be just fine,
Wow.
right?" I did the show, and I fell in love with recording, and then they had me do it several. Like, I was like on rotation as one of the
Oh
hosts.
wow. That's
Yeah, it
amazing.
was pretty cool. The only thing that was weird is like people could call in and do requests, and like several, like probably like 6 men who called in all thought I was a woman and were like flirting with me.
Okay, so that gets awkward, but
It does get awkward. So it's like they're like, "You're doing a great job, sweetie." Like, it's like, oh my god, they think I'm a woman. My voice sounds like a woman on the air, so
okay,
it's
well
all
you
right.
you have a beautiful sensual woman voice, and I would like to excuse and apologize for mine because mine's terrible. I'm sick at the moment.
I think all of us we all have really nice voices, Sean. We can all do this. Like, it's like live here on Starfleet Boy. I do try not to do it, but my radioness comes out. Sean, I would like to offer you Christmas felicitations, as this episode of Starfleet Boy falls on Christmas Eve. This is the air date. We record them, release them once a week, so we're back to our nice little recording schedule here. So happy Christmas to you, and happy Christmas to everyone else who does or does not celebrate it. As an American, my awful president, has tried to ruin Christmas by saying that no longer celebrated in the United States, and that we have to celebrate it harder or something like that this year. But Christmas has never had
Party hard, but
Christmas has never been diminished, and the whole spirit of Christmas is to include others. So I don't think that unfortunately, I don't think our president has it correctly. His advisors are not advising him accurately. So
I don't think he listens to his advisors much. But Christmas is a happy time, whether you celebrate it or not. I think it's just a merry time, and it's a time of giving. So Merry
I
Christmas
agree.
to all.
Yay, and to all, a good night. That's it. Our program's over.
Thank you, and thank you very much for listening to this week's Starfleet podcast.
Wow, that's really good. I'm impressed. I was telling the doctor that I have a rotation of films that I watch during the holiday season. I was wondering if you had such a tradition in your household as well, and if you did, what are some of your top films to watch during this time of year to put you in the mood or spirit of the season, if you will?
I've never really had a tradition. A few years back, a friend of mine had me watch Die Hard because he said that's the best Christmas movie. And so I forget why exactly it is a Christmas movie, but
Well, I think it takes place at Christmas, like on Christmas. It's been like a billion years since I've seen the original Die Hard, but I believe that it's set during Christmas. And doesn't he say something like "Ho ho ho, mother effer or something like that when he's just about to
He
kill the
only
bad
had me
guy or
watch that
something.
movie once, and it was supposed to become some sort of tradition, but he wasn't there on the next Christmas, so it just fell flat. Um, I have watched The Santa Claus a lot.
Oh yeah, it's a good
I don't
movie.
know. Well, it's a good movie. Everything's relative, but
I mean, it's a good Christmas Christmas
it's
movie.
Tim Allen becomes Santa because he kills the original Santa or something, which probably wasn't the original Santa anyway. And I watched that when I was younger. But
That's
in
funny.
recent years, no, we haven't had a Christmas time movie. We watched Shrek 4 last year.
Well, Shrek
Yeah,
4.
around Christmas time,
Oh,
if that
okay.
makes any sense. But no, it doesn't.
I guess.
It's
I mean,
no, it's
it could.
just we were
Well, I
catching up on
have.
Shreks, but
Well, but like so last week's discussion I told the doctor that on my list is Generations. It's cuz it has that whole scene in the Nexus. Picard's idea of heaven is
uh,
Christmas time in like Victorian England or something like that.
okay.
And so like, it's a very
Okay,
Charles
I went further than I thought it was because you had Kirk and Picard in the same film, so that's kind of a Christmas present for all
that
Trekkies out there. But
that too. It's all of the things, but mainly because of that scene. It reminds me of Christmas time. But
mm.
yeah, so Generations is on my
We
list.
should have a Christmas themed time loop episode in Discovery someday.
Oh,
That would be
they could
awesome.
do that.
And like the clues
Yeah.
in the reflection of a Christmas ball or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Or they revisit, or they, well, it wouldn't be revisiting the Nexus, but like maybe they encountered the Nexus before the Nexus was encountered. If that makes sense. It's like once every
Yeah,
72
there's
years
a
or
time
something like
frame you have to respect in that, and I don't think Discovery is
that.
too good on time frames at the moment. But
No, it definitely is not. And they missed out on any kind of Christmas episode because they were taking a hiatus until January 7th. So
yeah, so they know how to deal with stuff. So just not take it off the air.
Dunk. um I would have made that noise if I hit it with the insignia. It would have been perfect. So today's episode, final mission. I guess I'll give like a little episode summary. I tried not doing one and it didn't work out very well a couple weeks ago. So
Ooh, okay.
yes, I'm gonna go back to episode summaries because they seem to put me in the right mind frame. Otherwise, I'm totally lost and have giggle fits and go completely off topic.
No, we don't want
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And you're welcome to help me out on the summary here
Okay.
if I miss something. Because
All right.
I guess you just watched the episode like today, right?
I watched it about what are we like nearly? Oh yeah, I watched it about 4 or 5 hours ago.
You're in your mind. That's good. I watched it like 3 days ago, so
Mm.
it's kind of still there. It's lingering. The episode it begins with the crew of the Enterprise en route to a negotiation of or settlement of some kind of legal affair with a colony of miners on Gary. When he's here, he knows all the planets, and he's spoiled me. Not that I'm trying to say you gotta look up all the planets. You don't have to be my wingman in that regard. But it was called, I happen to have it up here on Memory Alpha. It was called and I can't find it. Anyways, S5. So
See,
the
I'm not professional enough. I didn't listen to the name of the planet. I should have.
no, it's
I
totally
was I
fine.
was unsuspecting of what was awaiting me. So next week I will know.
I try to mention the names of the planets because it's always interesting how they come up with the names. Like, for example, the other planet in this episode. Well, anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, Picard summons, literally, that's what he says. He summons Wesley Crusher, inform him that there happens to be a slot opened up at Starfleet Academy, and Wesley it has been selected to fill the slot. So that's it. He can be off on his way. So he asks Wesley to accompany him negotiations, and then afterwards they'll drop him off at whatever point. is established in the episode, which I've already forgotten.
Oh,
But
I think I have that one. Starbase 115, is it?
Oh, right on.
I think it's that.
My wingman anytime. Um, but just before they're about to depart, they get a distress signal from another planet called Gamelan, I think. Gamelama Ding Dong. And the chairman, Gamelin 5. So both are 5s. Interesting. 5th planet from the sun. Anyways, Chairman Songi of the Gamelin people is freaking out because there's some kind of spaceship in orbit that's emitting an insane amount of radiation, and it's threatening to poison their beautiful planet and make the population very sick. So naturally, the Enterprise are to that, and then Picard and Wesley and Captain Durgo, who's a miner who pilots a little mining shuttle, are headed towards Pentaurus 5. And on the way there, he has engine problems and has to put down, and so they do a pretty nice emergency landing onto one of the moons of Pentaurus 3.
I can't help you.
That's interesting.
I got the Starbase wrong. Starbase 515 it was.
Oh, wow. But wow, there's 515. Assuming that they're in numeric order, there's 515 starbases.
Well, I mean, if it is the Federation, you would assume some are Andorian run, some are Tellarite, some are Vulcan, some are so.
Right.
Yeah.
Which by the next generation, they're not quite as like homogenous anymore, unless the what are they called? The Tholians never joined the Federation by this point, right? They're still.
I wouldn't think so. They're still kind of.
So they're still kind of But I would imagine now most star bases are kind of more mixed than in the beginning days of the Federation. But who knows? So anyways, so they crash land on this planet, and then meanwhile, the crew of the Enterprise have to rescue this planet from the this horrible fate with the nuclear thing. So they can't respond to the missing person's request from the miners. They're like, hey, your guys never showed up. So Riker has to deal with the barge, and they do that a number of ways. At first, they try attaching like little pods to it, to worker pods or whatever, to push it, and that doesn't go so well because parts of it start falling off and things like that. So then Riker goes to plan B, which is, hey, speaking of plan B, just kidding. You're always plan A, Gary. Gary, can you hear me? You're not responding. Oh, we can't hear Gary. Something's going on.
It's just the mic isn't turned on. God.
Your mic. Hold on. I think I have a sonic screwdriver here somewhere. I don't have a sonic screwdriver, but I have my wand here, so maybe I can do something for that. Here we go. Audio. Nothing. There's nothing happening with your audio. My magic did not work.
How about now?
Oh, yeah, there you are. There you go.
The only thing is,
Gary.
Hello. Okay, hello.
You don't have to record your audio.
Well, I'm doing it, so it's fine.
Separately. Okay, well, I am too, actually. That's right. Am I? Oh, yeah, I am.
This is like the Christmas episode, so I was like, okay, I have to jump in.
Well, okay, cool. It is. How'd you know it was the Christmas episode? Oh, because I
saw your tweet.
Starfleet.
Very professional.
It's very professional. Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas to you, Gary.
Happy Merry Christmas.
England, right? Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Look at that. Happy Christmas. Da, 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 da.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. That was my Christmas present. My small Christmas present.
Tom Paris's
Captain
little comic book obsession.
So
we're just finishing up.
Oh my God.
It's the mission, but we're just finishing up the summary, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish that.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah, it only took like 20 minutes. But we did talk about a lot of other things before I went to summary. So, anyways, meanwhile on the planet, Picard, Crusher, and Durgo are decide that the best bet is to make it to the mountains where it's cool and sheltered, so that they could get there, and hopefully there's water, because mountains, snow, water, perhaps there's a good chance or whatever. So they leave a little arrow on the sand, and then they walk to the mountains. And when they get there, they do find water, but it's shielded somehow by some kind of alien technology. And when you try to blast the shield with phasers, this like energy comes out and encases you, or the phaser in this case, in the first attempt, in some kind of a plastic looking crystal silicone thing. Anyways, Durgo's pretty stubborn and kind of, he's a miner. He's a little rough around the edges. He's not like as polished as a Starfleet officer, so he doesn't really listen to Captain Picard or Wesley, and insists that the only way is through brute force. So he tries to attack this thing again. He has this other plan where he sets another phaser up to fire at a higher power setting, but it fails miserably, and then he's killed by this thing. Meanwhile, before that, Captain Picard is injured pretty badly when a bunch of rocks fall on him, and he's bleeding internally. So Wesley now has to get some water into Picard, because Durgo only had some alcohol on him, and that's not going to help, except to which Wesley uses it for. Anyways, Wesley figures out a clever way to thwart the defense system of the water, and manages to save Captain Picard while having some heartfelt moments with him. And then the crew of the Enterprise manages to send the nuclear waste barge into the sun of Gamelon 5 and race back to rescue the two right on time and get Wesley off to Starfleet Academy. That's it. That's the whole episode. Do you remember this episode, Gary? Did you watch it?
No.
You've never seen it?
Which episode? Well, I've seen it once. It's a Wesley episode, so I'm not only seen it once, but
it's a Picard episode.
It's a Picard
/ Wesley.
It is.
It's both technically, but
yeah.
Who is it more about? I think it's more about Picard.
I think the bonding between the two characters. But the funny thing is, I watched it like, I don't know, God knows how long ago. Years and years ago. I haven't watched it because I didn't know which episode we're doing today.
It's called the Final Mission. It's the one where Wesley goes off. It's his last episode before he's sent off to Starfleet Academy. I mean, we do see Wesley again later on, but this is it for this season of the series.
Very,
and then
nice episode name I found. It's Wesley's final mission, kind of with the crew. It's also the Miner's final mission because he dies. It could have been Picard's final mission because it leaves you kind of, is he going to die? Is he not going to die?
Yeah, the title, I guess, kind of like...
In a funny sense, it's also the final mission of the garbage scout because it gets thrown into the sun. So,
it totally is.
So yeah.
This episode when I was younger, when I first saw it when it aired, I really, really enjoyed it, and I remember being, feeling like very sentimental about the whole thing. And I actually liked Wesley. A lot of my my peers that I grew up with and we were watching it would always complain about Wesley as a character and complain about Gary, nice hat. Let me see what insignia do you have going on over there? Nice. That's the movie, the film, the TNG film
TNG,
era.
there you go.
Or I guess they call it the Voyager. Is it the Voyager? It's actually
Voyager,
appropriately,
yes,
it's more the Voyager. Also,
Ooh.
Sean,
I
do you
feel
have
so
any?
left out.
Do you? Oh, we'll have to fix this.
Well. Okay, I've got this. If this counts. This is very, very important for the podcast, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, we got it. That looked like a cool box there. 50th.
That's the 50th anniversary, fully remastered Blu-ray edition of TOS and TAS.
Ooh,
So for those watching, I have the
nice.
50th anniversary
Ooh.
Starfleet pin, which I can put here on my Sherlock Holmes Moriarty T-shirt.
You have a Moriarty and I'm drinking milk.
For those who dislike Sherlock Holmes for what it's become, I bought this T-shirt when it was Sherlock Holmes or Sherlock season 2. So in
You
my
mean
defense,
Yeah.
By the way, it's just
When it was still-
it's just called Sherlock.
Sherlock. Yeah,
It doesn't have the Holmes at the end.
I disrespect that show now.
Because the estate of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle probably wouldn't allow it.
I actually learned that all the TNG episodes that had that featured Sherlock Holmes and all of that story, they did that because they thought it had fallen into public domain.
I know, and then they got
And
like
then they learned years after that it wasn't, and so they had trouble with that.
So watching it again, I kind of like, I liked it still, but I found like I have questions about I guess the actual like dilemma and the procedure involved, because now it kind of seems like a little transparent in terms of like, oh, there's these delays that maybe didn't have to happen. And I wonder what you guys think. I'll present, one of them, which is so you have this like barge, this nuclear barge thing, right? That's like orbiting this planet, and the reason the Enterprise can't tow it to the sun, or they didn't want to do that idea first, is because they have to travel through an asteroid belt and safely navigate through that. They can't just like push it into the sun because of this asteroid belt. They have to tow it to the sun, basically. So there's this whole risk involved and everything like that, and this time constraint. But we're working in space, so like I'm wondering, like, be on a horizon of sorts, like like couldn't you just like launch the barge above the asteroid belt, go save Captain Picard, and then come back and then pick it up wherever you left it and then launch it back down to the sun?
Three-dimensional thinking was required.
Gone. That was like, it's a technical gripe, but like I feel like that's what I would have done as Commander Riker. I would have been like, let's just fling it in that direction, make sure there's nothing there, calculate how long. Why did Gary disappear again?
I don't know.
I'm still
Is he
here.
going
Just
audio
audio
only?
only.
Gary likes this audio only mode.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might do the same because I'm on like very, very low quality, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I noticed some glitching as well, so that's why.
All right, full audio only.
All right, I'm gonna follow suit too, guys. We're going audio only. All right, let's see. How do I do this? There we go.
For those listening to us, they absolutely don't care, but
yeah, it's true. Actually, this will be better for the podcast because the audio will be better. So the other thing is if you had to tow it, since I went audio only, I wonder if this will work. Let me try something here. All right, so can you guys see my screen right now?
yeah.
All right.
Oh, you're in Sketch.
So you have
Is it Sketch?
Yeah, it's called Sketchbook Pro. So you go, oh, here we go. Let's do this.
So that's totally relevant for the podcast too.
What's that?
No, that's totally cool for the podcast too. They can see. Ooh, look at that. You
have the Enterprise D here. right? I'm just gonna do like a quick little Enterprise D here, right? And you have this like barge, right? And so what they did is they tractor beamed it, and then they extended the shields around it. So why couldn't you just stop the shields like right there and then shield the crew from the radiation and safely tow the barge with the tractor beam still emitting? You could even arguably make a hole just where the tractor beam is and then evacuate all the decks that are like near that hole, and then you're fine. So those were my technical problems. Now is that too crazy, guys? Is that too nerdy?
I think there were, if you really set your mind to it, there was a lot of ways to kind of put the problem aside and then go save the guys. But they it helped the episode in the way, like, to have them not go to the planet straight away.
I guess so.
I
mean,
this
obviously,
that's just what the writers wanted to do. Going back watching this TNG after Discovery, the episode feels a lot less complete. It feels slow paced, and
you've gotten used to kind of like the pacing of Star Trek Discovery and how it's
modern television in general. I think there's a lot more things happening at once.
One thing that stood out to me also that I didn't notice when I was a kid, but like I appreciate it now, is like they were actually on location in some desert somewhere with mountains in the background, because that was definitely not a map painting. Yeah, and that part was really good, and it was filmed really beautifully. They had that like kind of high contrast, like yellow tone to it, and it did make it seem like it was like very, very hot and inhospitable. What did they say? It was like 55°C. Let me see.
That was it.
Hey Siri, what's 55 centigrade in Fahrenheit?
131 degrees.
It was 131 degrees on the planet's surface, so that's pretty freaking hot.
I thought immediately about how Discovery, when they filmed the pilot episode of Discovery, they went to Jordan and filmed on location, and how much I praised them for doing that. I thought it was really great that they actually took the time to go to Jordan to film in that desert over there. And rewatching this episode, I thought the same thing. I thought, hey, well, this is really neat. They took the time to actually build the shuttle, show it in the hangar bay, and then show it on the planet's surface, and then took the time to film on location wherever that desert was. Probably still somewhere in the US, but it was really cool.
I like the shuttle design too, because it doesn't look too much like, even though it probably is a redressed Starfleet shuttle pod, they were able to redress it in such a way that made it look like pretty like alien, not necessarily like crazy, but like not Federation looking, which I liked as well. And it had like wear and tear on it, and the smoke coming out of it and stuff like that. It was a really neat kind of actually the alien, the planet with the they never really explained the water or why it's shielded, but you can imagine that like whoever left it there died out or something like that. So it's a kind of a neat little.
I like that though. I like that. I like that some episodes explain things and some don't. Some kind of leave you just puzzled. But that is the universe, and that is how big it is. And you would expect to see things sometimes that are just abandoned, be it a building or whatever this technology was used for. I mean, of course, you could argue that.
Revisit these things after a while, no?
Wait, what's that?
I mean, it would be nice to actually revisit these things after a while, just like I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
if there were a
there's a lot of things. I mean, what happened with that slimy creature in season 1 that killed Tasha?
Oh,
I mean, still, yeah, or Magnum.
Didn't they fire a torpedo at it afterwards?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that was a big enough punishment.
Sometimes they put a buoy up and say that the planet is inhospitable and warn people not to go there.
Off limits. Yeah, it's true. I could have sworn
what happened with Nagilum?
Well, Nagilum, he comes to you. You don't find Nagilum. Nagilum finds you, Gary.
So he's not even interested in Federation anymore.
Not after what
But
happened.
you would assume that if there's a post-Nemesis show one day, they could use some of these elements from TNG, DS9, Voyager, and even the original series
Yeah.
as kind of world
Indeed.
building. Because I've always wanted to see. So this fountain, yes, could be interesting, but I mean, so a planet like the Horta, you could do just an opening sequence where your crew or whatever they're leaving the planet with a Horta, working in peace and harmony with the miners, and it's just an interesting throwback, and it shows you that the thing that we've done on this planet has actually been useful.
Yeah. What Star Trek is about.
But yeah, I do like the fact that sometimes you end up on this planet. There's a fountain. It's surrounded by some sort of energy field.
There's a mystery. It's like interesting.
There's a mystery. It only takes I suppose, a few hours for our best and brightest Starfleet officers to crack the code. But but it's just sitting there, it's just lying there because someone used it before and now they're gone. It adds to
the planet. I remember reading on Memory Alpha that the planet scenes were filmed in San Bernardino Valley in California. And there's another cool thing. We often, when I do the show with my friend Humbert, the doctor, who you guys both have met virtually, we refer to a book called The Star Trek Companion, which was written by Larry Namasek. And basically all of the that you read on Memory Alpha are lifted, directly from his book. So you don't really need the buying it just because it's nice to have a hard copy. And anyways, you may know Larry Namasek because he's very active on Twitter and stuff like that. And if you don't follow him, you should check his account out. But the shuttle was called No, he's not Dr. Trek, is he? Yeah, I guess he is Dr. Trek. That's right.
Yeah, I
That's
think he's Dr. Trek.
Yeah, he's Dr. Trek. You're right. That's his nickname. But anyways, he authority before the internet, he was the authority on continuity and things like that. And he just kept track of all these interesting. And the shuttle is named after him. It's called the Nanebek, but it was apparently that was a nod to Larry Namasek. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
The original.
Actually it says it on Trackcore as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and the original story was supposed to take place on an ice planet, so it would have been Oth, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they would have had to find some other way than water or whatever.
I feel like Wesley is somehow traveling. When he travels with Captain Picard, it's bad luck, because the last time Wesley traveled with Captain Picard, he had a heart, his heart surgery thing went wrong, and Dr. Pulaski had to come in and save the day on that one. And then now this time their shuttle crashes. So I wonder if Wesley is just somehow maybe
he's a universal magnet of bad luck.
I wonder if it's a good thing to travel with Wesley. Oh, what? I'll take the next shuttle. No, it's all right. You go. Yeah, I did in the beginning of the episode kind of all the procedural stuff. I liked how they were, even though I don't agree with the solution as being the best solution, I did like how they came to work out all the details. And just watching, it's the kind of thing that I really love seeing, and I wish that we'll get more of it in chapter 2 or season 2 of Discovery. Is where you see the operation. Yeah, problem solving, and then also just everyone on the bridge working together and just trying to figure it out, and
that classic Star Trek problem solving. But I must
exactly
in this episode in particular, I think that is that the B plot?
Yeah, I would say it would be definitely the B plot.
It's not that interesting.
No,
it's not as if there's an alien race attacking this planet. It's literally just garbage floating around, and so they have to take out the trash. And I mean, I agreed. It is a thing that could happen. I just thought it was not the most interesting way of keeping them away from Picard and Crusher, which do have the most interesting plot here because they've got all that character development.
It's true. And I like that there are things that are set up in this episode that come to pass later on. Like as he's kind of fading in and out of consciousness in that one scene where Wesley is trying to keep him awake. Picard mentions that to go and look for someone on at Starfleet Academy, and he says like his name is Boothby, and Wesley's like, what does he teach? And he's like, oh, he's the groundskeeper. And then, and then of course later on we do actually meet Boothby, and he's played by I can't remember the name of the actor at the moment, but he's the actor who played My Favorite Martian in the original My Favorite Martian. Do you guys know that show?
Ray Walson.
That was on the movie?
Ray
That
Walson,
was a movie with Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, okay, that's right. But the original television show was Ray Walson, who Sean just mentioned. And I used to watch that show as a kid. It was of course on reruns when I was watching it because it was like a show from the 40s or 50s.
That's amazing. I didn't even know there's a TV series called I have to watch this.
Yeah.
Because I love
Here,
the
I'll
movie. I
show
remember
you.
Christopher Lloyd, but this is amazing.
Yeah, I remember the movie. It was actually pretty funny. I thought it was pretty good, but you can't really beat the original show. It was pretty clever. Either, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I just audience pause the video and go check out My Favorite Martian. And then you'll recognize the actor who plays Boothby. Got a picture of him. Let me put him on for you.
Wow. That's really amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, about that, it's really awesome that you talk about that because they mentioned Boothby, and he comes back in later episodes, but they also Wesley talks about his last experience with Picard in a shuttle. He said he was stressed about it and he was all nervous and anxious. And though TNG is episodic, it's not a serialized story. I disagree with certain people that have been talking about Star Trek recently, saying that every episode hit the reset button.
Right, which is totally wrong. Yeah, if you watch the show at all, you know
even
that
in the original series, I think it's wrong. Even in the original series, I think it just comes down to the professionals. So what happens one week, though it should affect them. It doesn't necessarily hurt them that much.
I think
in TNG, it really does affect them. All the Borg things affect Picard so much that we have those scenes in First Contact.
Yeah, and there's references to other episodes, and then even setups for future episodes. So yeah, there's definitely that going on. But I think like the idea was that I think that shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation, they favored character progression rather than an arc, so to speak. So there was no like necessarily going to be, even though if you look at the show, and again, there's definitely like a string for each character, and even a string of story. Like you start with Q, you end with Q. 7 years later, you're still on trial. It's kind of like a nice like create an arc that maybe wasn't apparent. You know what I mean? Like by doing that kind of thing. But yeah, Game of Thrones just feels more like, oh, you just picked up right where you left off. It's like, the next hour or the next day in the next episode. Whereas on Star Trek, my argument, I think, is that like, who knows how much time passes between episodes. I think someone's kept track of all that stuff. There's got to be like some really devoted who has taken the time to figure it out. I wish I had the time I wish someone would pay me to figure it all out, because I would love that
see it this way. These guys are on this ship for years and years and years, and not every day is interesting. And as Kirk says in the last Calvin Timeline movie, Beyond, things are getting episodic. things are just getting, I suppose, fall into routine. And I take it as the show doesn't give us every day, because not every day something happens. The show only shows us what's interesting or what's worth showing in your adventures. So sometimes a month will pass between two adventures that we see, sometimes maybe only a day or maybe only a week.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Which is interesting because you know, again, how much time is actually passing by, and I kind of like that also. Whereas when you're very specific, you have to kind of like, you have way too many things to think about and stuff like that. So I don't know, there's an argument for this kind of television, and then there's an argument for the other kind of television. But I think you came based on some things that have been said, and including some comments. What is Gary doing? Is he chopping vegetables? I know.
What?
Gary, it sounds like you're chopping vegetables over there.
Chopping vegetables? No, I'm editing a video while I'm listening to you.
Oh,
Okay. So you're kind of a background here. You're in the background, not talking, just listening.
One thing we do.
Well, yeah, because it's interesting to listen, huh?
Gary, we appreciate that, but I do require your engagement as well.
Oh my god.
Being here.
Okay, I'm AFK.
Away from keyboard.
Away from keyboard,
Yeah.
I like that.
I even released the mouse.
It is funny that without video, because like obviously if I saw you doing it, I would know what you were doing, but it sounded literally like you're chopping vegetables, and I thought, wow, Gary's making his dinner or something like that. Well,
Yeah, well, big time. I still have to do that too.
Okay, well, here we go. I've got something to say about the episode. It reminded me in Discovery. It reminded me of Discovery in the sense that the objective was to take a shuttle and go somewhere in a shuttle, and they do that a lot in Discovery. And then when the shuttle has a problem, there's only 3 people on it. When the shuttle has a problem, they say, "Oh, you need to go and save them because our closest ship is a week away." And it's like, you sent a shuttle with a captain, an ensign, and some schmuck alone in the galaxy, and the closest ship is a week away. Like, what do you think is going to happen? It's ridiculous. So, I mean, I suppose those come down to just, I mean, that comes down to a general Star Trek flaw, I suppose. But it's something that we have to accept, because that's how you get into these kind of situations where you have a survival story on a planet which resembles Pitch Black. Somewhat.
It does a little bit, you're right.
But no, I really like the whole survival of it. Just the thought of being stranded alone, or just the two of you on a planet, or even worse, with some sort of alcoholic,
just what
is frightening. And yeah, I like that.
And what do you guys think as far as an appropriate way to kind of say so long to Wesley's character? At least we find out it's so long for now, but at the time it aired, it felt like this was definitely his last episode. Do you think that was like a good mission for Wesley? Do you think like his it showed off all the best things about his character? Because I think he was rude and awful to the shuttle captain from the beginning. Like, he insults his shuttlecraft, and he's like constantly suspicious of him.
I mean, that's just him being a young man, kind of, I think.
I guess so. I mean, Captain Picard's pretty tolerant of it, but I think it's because Picard agrees with Wesley. I mean, Captain Durgo is definitely, doesn't have his shit together. I mean, he doesn't even have water or emergency rations or anything like that. So yeah,
I think it was a good way to show off Wesley's problem-solving qualities without falling into that trap of he saved the ship yet again. Because I think that's a big problem that a lot of people had with Wesley. He's the genius that saves the ship
every time.
I personally never had any problems with Wesley. As a child, I wanted to be as smart as him, and I wanted to be that guy that Picard would, look up to save the ship.
You know, that's funny when you're saying it. You wanted to be like Wesley. I always wanted to be like Picard. Somehow I
Oh, well,
felt
there you
more
go.
close to him in terms of, I wanted to be Picard, not Wesley. Although Wesley was
Well,
more
I
close to me.
wanted to have some hair, so.
But
I remember sometimes acting like Data with no apparent reason, but yeah.
But it's more as a young boy watching TNG. I think I identified with Wesley simply because he's a young boy as well. And then you think, oh, it'd be awesome if I was as smart as him and be able to problem solve. So I think maybe that's one of the problems that people had, that he really saved the ship. When you have Geordie LaForge, arguably the best chief engineer in the fleet, not able to do anything.
yeah, I mean, like everyone on the Enterprise is on the top of their game, and here you have Wesley. Like, but I think that was cool because it also kind of paints a picture of kind of how real life is. I know that I think this is a pretty universal experience, but if you're the youngest person, but like it's especially an apparent dynamic at work. When I worked at that classical radio station that I told you about, I was actually like how I started out there, and I was the youngest person on the staff. I was like 18, like freshly 18, and everyone else was like at least 10 years, 15 years older than I was. And oftentimes I would come up with creative solutions that no one really thought about, just because I had a better understanding of like technology of the time, and like even just like I was still being educated more actively, I think, whereas people definitely still learn throughout their lives, but when you're in an educational kind of environment or you're being exposed to these things, like I think you just tend to be more apt to come up with these like wild solutions. And so at the radio station, I helped the team there to innovate quite a few processes and things like that, and they would always like, I think was actually Google. I was able to like find any answer that anyone had asked for, especially in the technical. So I think that
sound like a bad guy in the Defenders or something.
the Google, hey, call Google.
He's hacker man.
I wonder, before Google, what kids were being called that were really good at searching on search engines, because there used to be Alta Vista and like I like Google.
Things like Cypher.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think Wesley definitely for me like represents that archetype. And now that I'm older, it's like totally like the reverse. Like I meet Wesleys all the time, and I'm in like either in awe of their just their like creativity and their advanced kind of knowledge, all of the two of you, or at how snarky and idiotic they are. That's and then that's a whole different conversation. I did like the character development moments. I thought I thought of that, all the things that you said, were spot on there, Sean. And I thought it was the fact that they filmed on location and they had like this like higher production value for this episode, like did feel like a better way to send. It wasn't just like a mundane episode on a like on a bunch of sets. They actually were outdoors, and it sounds like they pulled out some of the stops for Will Wheaton, so he must have some pretty good memories of that day.
Yeah,
Will Wheaton, if you're listening to this show by any chance, please feel free
Ignore what I was
Sean,
just saying about you.
Sean, what were you just saying about Will Wheaton?
I always loved Will Wheaton. I always loved Wesley Crusher. At the time, I had no idea of who the actors were, what they were doing. I only knew the characters when I was a child. So
yeah, I did remember Will Wheaton from the movie Stand By Me, which if you guys haven't seen, you should definitely go see. And make sure you take Gary with you with a cutting board, a knife, and vegetables so he can recreate this sound.
I'm just clicking on pictures.
Yes,
I'm not even editing anything.
That's on my Netflix to watch list. Stand By Me.
Oh, Stand By
Simply
Me.
because
Have you seen it, Gary?
I saw his
No.
face. I saw Will Wheaton's face and I was like, oh my god, he's a
Oh, you
child.
saw-
So I put that on my list.
Totally. That's a heavy hitting film. It's got a lot of like people in it that became big celebrities. I think is it
Hmm.
not Feldman's in it. Is he in it? Corey Feldman is also in it, I think. And River Phoenix is in it. I know that for sure.
So story by Stephen King.
Stephen King, yeah. It's so strange because
River
it's his
Phoenix,
one.
Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, Jerry O'Connell,
It's
who is in that he's in that show I was telling you about like a couple of weeks
okay.
ago. My Secret Identity.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Oh my god, he's super young in this film.
Yeah, he is.
Gosh.
Okay, so I've got a few things that I wrote down just because they made me laugh. They made me giggle in the episode.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, this just might be me completely exaggerating, but that miner, he's wearing this kind of brown leather jacket, and I couldn't help but feel it. It looked very Star-Lord.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, there's Star-Lord vibe to him.
and then when they get to the planet and they get to the surface, they put out the phasers and they put all they have this what is it, black material that they wrap around, that they put around their heads and they put around their waists, put the phasers in it, and it all looked very mirror universe to me.
There was like a cool, yeah, they have a pirate vibe to them, I thought.
Mm.
Did you notice that the phasers resemble the Star Trek film at the time?
Wrath of
There was no
Khan, right?
yeah, like well, no, I think actually Wrath of Khan, they're flatter. I think these are the Star Trek 3
Oh,
and Star Trek 4 phasers.
that's true.
Yeah, I didn't notice
Okay.
what movie. I just, when you look at them, they felt they're very old.
Yeah, and they're like
what we used to seeing on TNG.
Yeah, exactly, because they adopt that weird, I don't know what you would call it, but like the wand style phaser for TNG, whereas this is more of a pistol style.
Mm. And so the other thing I noticed was, so I watched this on Netflix, it's a remastered version. As they are going to crash, or as they're picking which planet they're going to crash on, you get a shot of the shuttle in space, and then I think there's 3 planets that you can see, and the one they're heading towards is rendered in full HD. It's got all these details on it, and all the others are just big round circles.
Blobs.
Yeah, it was very interesting that they actually HD rendered like the planet that they were going to.
That's so funny.
It was funny that
I liked the musical cues during that scene. Actually, like they might have been a little reminiscent of Star Wars, but I really liked like
This is the one, right?
Oh, cool! Yeah. Wait, you gotta talk or hit present.
Oh
to
yeah, there you
everyone.
go. So this is it.
I'm not seeing that.
No? How?
I'm left in the dark. I have your beautiful logo.
Who's seeing it? Is there anyone seeing it?
I see it.
Okay.
Well, maybe.
But you gotta click on present to everyone, Gary.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you see it?
Oh, okay. Well,
Your screen is sharing. That's what it says.
Oh, okay. Let me give you the power. Hold on. I think I have to make you a commander or something like that. Hold on.
ooh.
Commander. So I'm gonna be promoted now. Oh my god.
There's this control room thing here. Oh, whoa! I can totally I can adjust your audio. And I think if look, can I can force you to be
camera.
video.
What did you do?
Look, I can force you. I have the power.
Oh my god.
That's amazing. I can't believe I could do that. That's so cool. I'll put you back. There you go.
Wow.
Look like I can give you the power, which kind of sucks.
Okay. Well,
It says you're in a moderated video for me, so yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. But anyways, if you want to send me the link through the chat feature, I'll present it to everyone. If you know how to do that. There it is. Oh, look at the little smiley face. Hello. Did you have some more notes?
what did I have? I write things down and I don't know why I write them. Beam them up. Oh yes, at the end of the episode, they actually, yeah, that's it. They go and get them on the surface, and I just wondered why they didn't beam them up directly.
Excuse me. I wonder if that's
It led to the whole sequence of Captain Picard talking, saying his goodbyes to Wesley, which is very funny because he decides to talk to Wesley and have that emotional scene while those two other guys, those poor medical officers, are holding him up.
I guess the you're right. That's
so they have to just stand there and hold him while he talks.
Captain's prerogative. There might be a throwaway line somewhere in there because there's a lot of information that they throw at us, but I bet there's a line somewhere about how the rocks might create some kind of interference, or maybe that electromagnetic interference prevents a beaming from inside the caves.
Maybe.
Life signs or whatever. I'm not sure. But
Fair
I'm sure
enough.
there's
some sort of justification that we can find to it.
But it would have been better for his condition if they just beamed him directly to sickbay for sure. Like, I think it's also awesome that like in the future you can get that badly injured and like he's gonna be fine in a matter of hours. Like that's something that I always Oh, here's the link. Let's pull it up here. Hey, the distant planet doesn't look very rendered, but the one that's that they're crashing into, you're right, it is much more. Here, let's pull.
Looking at the photo, looking at that picture, that screen cap. So okay, so that doesn't look as bad as what I saw in the episode.
This is what Gary was actually doing while you heard all the mouse clicks. He created this image.
Guys, come on.
That is a nice image.
Yeah, I just finished rendering. Yes, that's why I was clicking.
Okay, I'm gonna send you guys over a screen cap I have from the Netflix episode. This is the shot I was talking about. So I don't know if you'll be able to share that so that our viewers can see it.
Oh, cool. Are you gonna send it via email or through here?
Oh, I don't know. What can I
send
do?
Send it to email, and that gives me an opportunity to let everyone know that if you want to send a message to us, you can write to me at Sohail SOHAIL at starfleetboy.com or starfleetboy@gmail.com. Gary and Sean, will you guys give everyone your preferred contact method?
I don't have any. I just
Twitter,
have a YouTube channel and Twitter, so people.
And Twitter. So
I have a tendency to read all the comments on my channel, if it's a video that doesn't have too many views. If there's too many comments, then I have trouble keeping track.
Excellent.
I'll do it. If everyone interested to contact me and regarding my channel or whatever, truckerprice@gmail.com. It's absolutely fine. It's public, actually. You can contact me through my website, and you can contact me through my YouTube channel too. And there's the commercial.
Excellent. All right. So yes, Sean, if you'll send that to Sohail at starfleetboy.com, I'll pull it up on the.
No worries.
Outside of that, not much really happens, I think, in this episode. I did think that, I know that this is a stretch, but I did find it kind of interesting that like add some tonal and like visual similarities to the Vulcan Hello's opener. And I know it wasn't done, there's like a million desert planets and like that desert planet looks different and stuff like that. But it's just kind of interesting here to see a captain and, one of his crew, walking through the desert, waiting to be picked up by their ship. And, the same thing happens in Star Trek Discovery. So it's maybe an unintentional homage.
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, there are similarities in the sense that they're on this kind of desert planet, and Picard puts down that arrow to kind of indicate where they are. And Discovery, same thing. They're on a desert planet, but they're doing the Starfleet symbol, walking around. Yeah, it's done in a more how should I say this? Down to
Traditional
earth
way.
way. It's more. I would almost say believable in TNG. Whereas
yeah, I
it
think
really
that,
does
like,
feel like it's made for TV. Is something that would only happen in television on Discovery.
I totally understand, like, Captain Giorgio having that kind of weird sense of humor, though, that, like, where she would tell her ship, like, if I'm ever lost, just look for a giant Starfleet insignia, because I'll make one somehow. But
But I mean, a bit of
but
wind would have blown that away anyway. Which is
no, it's true. And there's definitely a lot of wind happening because they were caught in a storm. So that's a good point. But the other thing is, in general, I think in Star Trek Discovery, like, the Starfleet logo is just like in your face, like, constantly. Like,
oh,
it's
they
just
like to
like
remind you it's Star Trek.
it's Star Trek. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, like, that I'd never noticed happening too much in other shows. So Discovery, we're not gonna forget what show we're watching. in the middle. So let's see. We have going back to the B plot for a second. I thought the design of the chair, the
Garbage scow.
alien. What's
Oh
that?
no, the alien.
Well, the garbage scow. The garbage scow looked familiar. It looked kind of like any old cargo ship that you see on Star Trek. I think we've seen this ship probably a million times.
Well, I mean, as it should be, though. It's just a floating trash can, isn't it? So.
But I was thinking more about I guess the prime minister, when she wasn't a prime minister, chairman of the planet, Chairman Songi of Gamelon 5. Wow, I can't believe I remembered her name. But anyways, she had an interesting design, and I know Star Trek's done this a couple times where I can just show the audience to remind you what she looks like. But the best way I can describe it is that, like, her nose melted over her face, and then here you guys can see her. The design is interesting because, like, she has a mouth. It looks like parts of her nose melted over her mouth, and, like, so she has, like, these partitions or whatever. It's kind of a strange design.
It's not very appealing.
It's not appealing, but, like, it is alien. I kind of like that it's weird. The hair throws me off a little bit. Because, like, I think
even
this
the
is
style from their society, from that era, it's like.
Is this like a 90s thing or or like, just like how Star Trek the original series has a lot of 60s?
There's a 20 to 37s design fashion,
Well, I mean, her hair's pretty all over the place. She's been watching the Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games has been watching Star Trek.
About the face kind of design, I'm not a fan of when they do that kind of stuff, because I'm that kind of guy that kind of thinks of the logic behind it, like, how do you eat correctly? How do you kiss correctly?
Well, kiss is Sean, you're thinking very human centric here.
I am, but I am thinking in that way because she's humanoid. She's got 2 arms, 2
but
legs.
do you remember the creature from Star Trek 6 when Kirk kicked his knee and it was on his knee?
Right.
Yeah,
As it turned out.
Fair enough. So that's a joke, but fair enough.
We could be looking at her genitals right now, according to that logic. Like, these could be her reproductive organ.
Cover them up when addressing a Starfleet captain, though.
Maybe not. Society, maybe they don't put the emphasis on modesty of private parts that we do.
Fine. I guess what I mean is when we meet a kind of a non-humanoid species, I have a tendency to think and perceive things outside the box. When we see a humanoid species, I tend to think in, humanoid ways, which maybe is wrong on my part. But sometimes it feels like because they only had the budget to do humanoid creatures, they kind of ran out of ways to change your forehead or change your face and lied. They eventually fell into this kind of stuff, which doesn't make absolute sense.
I agree. I think that like, did you guys ever watch the show Babylon 5 by any chance?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of it? I think that like, if you look at Babylon 5 and the kind of diversity of styles of aliens that were presented on that show, I think that Star Trek kind of has always lacked in that department. And I know it is mostly budgetary and like, you know, you're talking about a show that probably has different time constraints and things like that. But it is rare that you see something like Until Voyager, which does a pretty good job, I think, with that, what is it, species?
472.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was pretty neat to include them. And the original series had like the Horta, which Gary referenced just a few.
I referenced.
What's that?
How dare you? I referenced.
Oh, you referenced it. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Harry wasn't an idiot.
I can't tell with these logos.
Oh, yeah, of course. Come on.
I'm gonna override it and bring your faces back. Exactly. So the Horta was pretty original. I mean, like, but it would be nice. Like, I really like the idea. I forget where I read it or who brought it up, but the tardigrade was supposed to be a crew member on the bridge and everything, and I think that would have been such a great thing to like to see that. And, and here I go, Gary, you're gonna love this.
Go on.
You're gonna love this. I have to give my hat. I have to tip my hat to the Orville, because they do have that amorphous blob character. What's his name, Gary?
Yaphet.
What is it? Yaphet?
Yaphet.
Mm-hmm. Yaphet. There you go.
Yaphet.
So,
the blob.
And didn't he save the ship with his tendrils at some point?
Yaphet saved the
What?
ship? I don't think he saved the ship.
Oh, okay. Oh no, he had. I remember now what happened.
What?
Yaphet's the greatest.
What are you talking about now?
On Orville, Yaphet is the greatest lover on the ship.
Well,
because that.
Okay.
Yes, because he's a blob.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to like block this. Starfleet boys gonna have to block this thing, but I understand your bandwidth is low, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm experiencing. I'm gonna have to change my internet service provider. I think.
I have no control of my internet providers and internet contract, so this is what I get.
Okay, so people are getting a behind-the-scenes glimpse in how our lives are.
There you go.
Well,
it's better to watch our show when it's up online and it's full HD and stuff, you know. It's better to listen to us right now.
I know for your shows it's like a good idea. Like that's why you guys have higher quality recording equipment and everything like that. But because Starfleet Boy, I happen to know, because YouTube does give you some interesting insights, and then also I've spoken to a couple of the people who tune in on YouTube. But for Starfleet Boy, most people just will shrink the window and listen. So it's an audio. That's why the podcast is something that's like doing so well for us, is because I think these longer format discussions just they lend really well to.
Well, I mean, once you've seen our
but I really like.
You've seen it every time, I suppose. So.
Yeah, and Gary's gonna create custom icons for us.
Ooh.
With the orbs, remember? No, I'm just kidding. I don't think we could do it because we'd have to change our channel icons to that.
I think that's the issue, because it's connected with Google. So if I do create an icon for YouTube, which I'm happy to do, honestly, but you know that will change all of your social Google accounts logo.
Yes, let's not do that.
Yeah, no, let's keep it as it is.
There was a scene. There was a scene in this episode where Counselor Troy comes to kind of check in on Dr. Crusher, and her response is basically kind of cold to Counselor Troy, and this kind of happens. This kind of happens a lot to Counselor Troy. Now, she's the very first counselor that we were ever like. Our previous Star Trek experiences, we didn't have like a ship's counselor that we met. I mean, there may have been a ship's counselor aboard the Enterprise A and the B and the C and whatnot, but the D's counselor is the first one who's like on the bridge all the time, and she's like an active member of the bridge crew. And so I remember when Star Trek Next Generation first aired, like there were a lot of like gripes about Counselor Troy's character, how folks thought she was like annoying at times, and sometimes like just didn't really do anything. And Humbert, the Doctor, is in that camp. I really like her, but this was one of those times where when I was rewatching this episode, it was a little awkward. I was like, we could have probably done without this scene. What do you guys think?
Gary, you want to talk
Do you
about
even
this?
remember?
Gary won't remember the scene.
I don't remember the scene, to be honest, but I think it was quite common between Deanna and God, I forgot her name. Beverly. So
Beverly.
I think it was quite normal. They ran into each other. They run into each other every time in the ship, and they check on themselves because they were friends still. So I don't think it's a relevant part for the episode, but I think it's more just showing up. Okay, there's still something goes on and behind the scenes, and there's still banter and still life for more the Enterprise, not just and
I did get the impression though when the way Gates McFadden played the scene is I felt like she was being really polite and answering Counselor Troy's questions, but I got that impression of like, why are you asking?
Way?
Yeah, dismissively, like, why are you asking me this? So maybe like that annoyed feeling is coming from the actual like the actors are interpreting these characters, and so I wonder if there's something to that there at all. But I did think,
maybe it was just a random scene, like Deanna was just bored and checking on Dr. Crusher, and then she was like, okay, I get you, but I'm busy, so go away.
Let's just say that like both of you graduate from you were commanders on a ship, and you're being granted your own Starfleet vessel you've never seen on Star Trek before, like something like a counselor that you think would be an essential bridge crew member for like a future series.
Oh God, that's a tough question.
Personally, I think it depends on the ship itself, because it's like because if you have a big ship like the Enterprise D, a Galaxy-class starship or a Sovereign-class starship, you have a lot of people to deal with, and a lot of people generates more problems, and they eventually end up going to seek for help with their problems. But I think in a smaller starship, having this familiar atmosphere, so they can just go and talk with each other. They don't necessarily need a counselor or something.
I think that's probably why Counselor Troy is one of the first that we see, because you upgrade. How many people were in the original Enterprise crew?
300 and some odd, I think.
Yeah, and then you hit like 1,000.
1,000,
so
yeah.
It's almost a small city now. You're going to need some sort of psychological or mental intervention.
Yeah,
I don't know that I ever thought of it that way, but that makes complete sense. And like on the smaller crew complemented ships,
the Doctor can deal with that, or one of the medical crew at least.
The Doctor, and then ultimately the captain has more time for everyone, because it's a smaller crew, so everyone, I guess, like they're bonded better. Like Gary was saying, they talk among themselves, and we do see evidence of that. Previous shows, so it's true.
I don't know if I would add a post that hasn't been shown yet, because I mean, I'm at a loss thinking of it right now, inventing some sort of.
I
But
think
I do
Gary.
think astrometrics is something that we see 7 of 9
Yeah.
Oh,
work on in Voyager, and I like. Though I disagree with the uh, overuse of holograms in Discovery, I think it is only logical to have like a 3D holographic render of the universe that you're in a room somewhere on your ship. And so I think every ship should have like an astrometrics lab, kind of the way that they had it in Voyager, so that you can
Yeah.
have a look at what's around you, what's going on, especially when you're in quote unquote crowded Federation space.
yeah, it does make sense. That's kind of like the stellar cartography room in Generations, which I love that
Yeah.
set. Like that was
Well, I
pretty
mean,
Yeah,
cool.
that was a
only
beautiful
the
set.
ships are only a week away, aren't they? But
Very nice.
You know, that set and that image of Captain Picard actually standing in there with Data. It reminded me of X-Professor from X-Men. Because he basically goes into this
you know
spherical
what?
something. I was like, wow,
Holy
there you
crap! It's the same set. I
go.
bet you $100. Hold on, let's take a look at it.
More or less the same structure of the set. So X
yeah,
Professor
yeah.
X.
I mean, it could be.
I'm pulling up the stellar cartography set here.
So that's essentially a big screen.
And Cerebro, watch, hold on, let me share this. This is crazy. I wonder if anyone's thought about this before. I'm sure there's the set for stellar cartography. And make it a little bigger. Oop, it's not working. Macintosh. There we go. All right, and now let's pull up Cerebro set. We just want this set. Hopefully nothing weird will come out.
There you
Here
go.
we go.
There you go. That's the one with
That's
No, I
similar.
was just
Good
thinking
job.
because it's so funny, Captain Picard in stellar cartography, and it's so funny to see the same guy who plays Captain Picard in in this sphere.
There's a cool crossover. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could have sworn there was a Marvel Universe crossover with Star Trek in the comic books, but I can't remember 100%.
Well, there's a Star Trek Green Lantern story.
Oh, is there? That makes sense. You know what would else would be cool and would make sense, but they'd have to travel to the future, would be Star Trek and Guardians of the Galaxy. That would be pretty funny stuff. But it'd be neat if like Professor X what's that?
You never know, Mike gonna end up having a Star Trek meets Star Trek as well. You know, the original and the classic Star Trek meets the Discovery or something.
Well, that really could happen, because I think it's also interesting, like with the advances in computer generated imagery and graphics, like there's no reason why you couldn't see a really, for short periods of times, like a Leonard Nimoy facsimile and find somebody.
I mean, they did it with DS9. It was beautiful.
Wait,
you know, they had a crossover. You haven't seen
you're just talking about the DS9 station.
Oh, the
I think Sohail's talking about actually rendering
like
characters, like how they do it in Star Wars and
in Rogue One, like how they brought Tarkin back and Leia.
Civil War gave us a young Robert Downey Jr. and
Robert Downey Jr.
Pirates.
That was a crazy scene. That's
Pirates
right. I mean,
5 gave us a young Johnny Depp.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying, Gary?
Sure. Star Wars, right?
It's essentially facial. How do they call it? I forgot how they call it.
I think they grafted on top of another actor. It's digital grafting.
Oh,
swap. It's face swap basically, but much more complicated.
They did something similar back in the days with Jurassic Park as well.
I don't.
They had Ian Malcolm, I think.
Sorry,
Yeah.
total topic changer. Just shut up now.
Something with Jeff Goldblum, I'm not sure. Although he's in the new Jurassic Park, but we're going way off topic. I think that means it's time to. I think it means it's time to give this episode probably our rating. Episode a 7. I think 7's a good score for it because although it's a really charming and endearing episode, and there's a lot of great scenes between and Picard, like, you know, the fact that they were actually on location for this episode rather than using, you know, that same a coal mine that they always use to do the well, that's Doctor Who, but you know, it's always the same like kind of exterior place.
Well, they move towards that eventually. You get
Yeah.
that cave, which is a kind of built set.
Exactly. Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. But we got a lot of nice on, you know, on
the surface.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole episode, other than the B plot being, you know, kind of a loose thing, but I agree with you that it's like, yeah, okay, it wasn't the emphasis of the episode. The emphasis was really the character development between.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like I would have appreciated even more of it. Like, I think that it would have been neat if, like, you know, maybe there was some more just dialogue between those two characters, and we didn't have to have so many scenes about the danger on Gamlon 5. So for that, I give it a solid 7. How about you guys?
I suppose I'm going first.
Indeed.
Yeah, because I think Gary's still chopping vegetables. No, I'm just kidding, Gary.
God. I'm gonna have to go lower than that. I'm gonna give it a 6. It's personally not one of my favorite TNG episodes. I think it reflects a lot of the things that I want to see in Star Trek, which is the problem solving, which is dealing with a kind of catastrophic situation in space. And I think the episode has some very good qualities to it being filmed on set. On location, etc. But ultimately, as you say, the B plot isn't necessarily well thought out or very well constructed. And that wouldn't be too much of a pain if it had taken more of a backseat to the main plot, which eventually, I mean, yeah, there's not too much scenes. There's not as much scenes as I wanted to see between Picard and Wesley, especially considering it is his last episode in a while. The last episode of all of them. No, it isn't.
No, he
comes back because there's that. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, there's the whole Starfleet Academy stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. It's just that it's his last episode on the ship.
Yeah, and also it's kind of his last. It's definitely his last regular appearance because after this he becomes like a guest. You know, like he's just.
They were already phasing him out a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, I would have loved to see kind of a deeper, more kind of heartfelt story between him and Picard, which ultimately maybe would have had more impact at the end of the episode. And so the fact that we had more scenes about the B plot took away from that a little. But it is still a nice episode to watch.
Yeah, I think so. It's a good average episode. Gary, from what you can remember, and I guess it's been a while since you've seen it, do you think you feel comfortable giving a rating?
Well, based on what I heard from you guys and based on what I remember, I would say I would give a 6.5 because I do agree with Sean in a lot, and I do like the episode a bit more. So 6.5.
All right. Well, I think it's safe to average this.
No further comments.
Episode out to 6.5 as a rating from the three of us. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of close out, I do think that like for whatever reason they were phasing Wesley out, and I think it might have had to do with Will Wheaton just having other which happens with actors a lot, and a combination of the two. I don't know that he went on to like pursue. I can't think of
Actually, now you're mentioning it. I was on TrackCore, and in the behind the scenes, they actually said, just a second. So Will Wheaton asked to leave the show, so he could pursue the main film offers coming his way, but Gene Roddenberry suggested he actually left the door open for his return.
Good guy.
So that was because of he wanted to. I think maybe that was a Stand By Me offer or something. And
no, Stand By Me was when he was like
came
way
before
younger.
TNG.
The
okay.
thing is,
so there might be some other things that come across in his life, and but it's so nice actually. They didn't write him off totally from.
It shows how fond, and well, I mean, I think
Yeah.
Wesley is Gene Roddenberry's kind of like alter ego of youth, because Gene's middle name happens to be Wesley, so I wouldn't be surprised if a degree of Gene in the characters, a gene of Gene. Sorry. Looking at Will Wheaton's IMDb filmography for a second. If we go back to 1990, he's been in 120
1981
films. So if we go to 90,
well, the 1991 is Toy
we can
Soldiers.
see what.
Oh
okay,
yeah,
I don't remember that movie.
Toy Soldiers, and then a few years later he was in Flubber.
I'm trying to get.
You had quite a few movies that I didn't really watch, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks like he did quite a bit of work. So he did leave.
Wow, did you actually realize he's actually he actually stated to the 2009 Star Trek movie as a Romulan.
He was a Romulan voice. Oh, I have this movie, and I've never actually seen it. It's called Fag Hag, and I didn't know Will Wheaton's in there.
What a good title.
It's pretty.
He plays himself.
That's funny. He was also in a few TV series afterwards, like The Invisible Man and Python. No, that's a TV movie. I personally never saw a Will Wheaton movie or anything of his outside of Star Trek. So for me,
or Big Bang Theory.
Well, yeah, his guest appearances in the Big Bang Theory,
right.
Of course.
Big Bang Theory, that's right. And that's
I
about
watch
it.
his
cool.
YouTube show Tabletop.
Oh, I haven't checked that out. I should check it out. Is it about tabletop gaming?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Will Wheaton invites a panel of varied celebrities from from the internet or from various shows. So people from Firefly, people from the kind of shows that we would watch, and they all play a board game together.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
And so the idea is every season they try out a certain number of board games, and so it is pretty big in the community because there's a board game that I have called Smash Up, which eventually it's essentially different factions. You got robots and dinosaurs and what have you, and they beat each other up. And one of the factions is like geeks or nerds or whatever it is, and Will Wheaton is a card.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, it is pretty much a reference in ratings of board games.
I'll have to check that out. Well, gentlemen, if there's nothing else to be said, I will thank you both for joining me today. This is really fun to do a TNG. This is our first TNG discussion with you, Sean.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. You're quite welcome to do more. And Gary, I hope
turn my camera on just for the sake of saying goodbye.
I hope I didn't too much. I should turn on mine too. Too much. We're really grateful that you even came on, because right now you are like the busiest man on the planet. So thank you for coming on and joining the.
No, I thank you for being here, and I'm sorry if it was a bit too much because I didn't watch the episode. That's the only reason, and it was kind of a couple of years ago. So
I kind of thought it was cool.
Next time I have to take the time actually to to watch the episode properly before.
My secret is I try to watch like a few of them when I have a chance to binge. That way I'm there. But like honestly, like you did pretty You did pretty well considered. It's just if nothing else, like, you know, I can tease you about chopping vegetables. So
Yeah.
Gary's gonna kill me.
No. I'm
Anyways,
not gonna kill anyone. No, but you know exactly how I do my, you know, I prepare myself as well, quite
no, you're
well.
very well prepared. No, it
Not
was
today though.
I understand what it's like to have a deadline, so I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
Happy Christmas, and happy holidays to our audience. And I just wanted to take a minute to say that we're really grateful for all the support that we've gotten so far. And so live long and prosper. See you next time.
Absolutely.